Ladies and gentlemen, today Rothman Orthopaedics would like to recognize some of our veteran heroes who have fought for our freedom. We also remember those who lost their lives, those who became prisoners of war, and those who are still missing in action. We would like to thank all of those people for their service. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ed Tafara.
My father is a Vietnam veteran. My father-in-law was also in the Army. And every year on Veterans Day, as we get ready to celebrate this coming Monday, I call my dad and I thank him for his service to our country. I call my son's godfather and thank him for his service to our country. And, you know, it's a week that we also just celebrated Election Day, and the privilege that we have in this country to freely express our opinions and our right to vote freely for our leaders. And so this chair symbolized a lot of things for each of us in a unique way. I think about the thousands of veterans that Rothman Orthopaedics has the privilege of caring for every year in this office and in the nearly 40 offices that we have around Pennsylvania and New Jersey and now New York. It's a symbol of freedom, it's a symbol of dedication, and it is a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice of those who we will not have the privilege of treating because they haven't come home. And so we hope this chair is a thank you to our men and women who serve our country so graciously, who do make that sacrifice. We're fortunate that they're here and that we have some veterans here with us today. But this chair is also a symbol for our staff and our patients that we have not forgotten and we won't forget. And so again, thank you on behalf of Rothman Orthopaedics for being here today. Thank you to our dedicated veterans and their families.
I'm here to introduce my friend Dave Drummond. And Dave was a prisoner of war. Two things about Mr. Drummond and Ralph Galati that everyone knows, another prisoner of war. They took beatings for our country. We served our country. Patrick Guy, Bob Riley, Lou. They took beatings for our country. I think they're the highest group of people that have to be recognized in our country because what they did, only God did.
These chairs are meant to represent the service members who are unable to fill them because of their sacrifices. They also remind us of the men and women who serve our country every day. The display of the chair was authorized by Congress in legislation that became law in 2016. It's an honor to be part of this dedication ceremony, as I'm a former prisoner of war, and it holds special meaning for me and certainly a place in my heart. I'll give you a brief summary of my story. And I was a bomber pilot on B-52s. In 1972, we were ordered to bomb Hanoi. During the fourth nights of the raids, or the third night, as we were making an attack on rail yards in Hanoi area, we were struck by two surface-to-air missiles. First one detonated underneath the wing, set the wing on fire and knocked out 3 of our 8 engines. Then the second one struck the fuselage of the aircraft, tore through the fuselage, wounded everybody on the crew except myself. After a short period of time, the aircraft became unflyable, so we ejected. So this was 4 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty much the middle of the night. We were at 35,000 feet, and I ejected into the night sky, falling for 2 minutes until the parachute opened. When the parachute opened, I was swinging in a parachute as the gunfire was reaching up toward me and shooting at other airplanes. As I got onto the ground, I was able to get rid of my parachute and was able to hide for a few hours. As I was lying on embankment, a group of 4 Vietnamese soldiers came up behind me, opened up their weapons on me, and I was taken prisoner at that particular time. The gunfire happened to awaken the villagers in a village that was about 50 yards away. They came out and proceeded to pummel me. The guards eventually took me to a truck, and I was taken to the infamous Hanoi Hilton. I was there in solitary confinement for about 11 days, and then was rejoined with some of the members of my crew. During this early portion of the incarceration, I was taken to a radio station. So within about 48 hours, my wife knew that I was alive, and most of the rest of the crew, because I was married at the time, most of the rest of the crew also had the same fate. The unfortunate part was that our gunner, who was alive and was okay, was not taken to the radio station. His wife did not know he was alive until the very end of the war when he was released. So you can imagine the stress that his wife was under. And that is the stress that people who have, or families that have missing in action personnel are feeling. And it continues and continues. Even though the chances of them being alive are very low, the stress continues for years. And luckily, when the war ended, my crew was repatriated back to the United States. And in fact, Ralph Galati, whom Joe mentioned earlier, was not on the same airplane, but we were released on the same day. It's certainly an honor and a privilege to be here. Just as a reminder, there are presently 81,000 missing in action from World War II onward that have not been accounted for. About half of those will probably never be accounted for because they were lost at sea, and the ocean has their remains. But this is a constant reminder of the sacrifices that American men and women make to protect the country, protect the most cherished right, our right to vote, and our next most cherished right, freedom of speech. If you don't have freedom of speech, you have basically nothing. You have a totalitarian state. So thank you very much for having me here today, and it's certainly been my honor.
At this time, we'll go ahead and unveil the chair. With the chair stands a plaque that reads, "You are not forgotten. Since World War II, more than 81,000 American soldiers are unaccounted for. This unoccupied seat is dedicated to the memory of those brave men and women and to the sacrifices each made in serving our country. Dedicated 2019 in memory of Vietnam War MIA U.S. Air Force Captain Ronald Leslie Bond, lost September 30th, 1971 in South Vietnam." Thank you.